Good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists. Great to have you all here. So this is an interesting discussion. A little bit of personal history. I studied engineering, and as soon as I got done with it, I ran far away from it to advertising, thinking that, I leave technology far, far behind. And for the first 5 or 7 years, it was all good. And then technology caught up with marketing. Today, you can't be in the world of marketing without technology colliding with it. And that's something which is now a core part of the business that I run for Publicis Group. Martech has come leaps and bounds over the last decade, right? The investments have only been growing. I've been reading some crazy numbers where, CMOs have become one of the biggest investors in technology products, right? I've heard numbers like 72 billion USD around the world, maybe more, maybe less. I think some of the panelists here might be able to shed light on that. But there's no running away from the fact that if you're going to be a modern marketer, if you're going to survive and thrive in the competitive environment that we're in today, in the channel fragmentation that we have, it's impossible to do that without a marketing stack or a Martech stack, so to speak. And I think we've got great representation here. We've got, marketers, we've got, people from the product side as well. So this should be a very, very interesting discussion. I just want to open with a question to all the panelists, and please feel free to go in whichever, whoever wants to answer it first. But given the evolution that we've seen with the Martech world over the last decade, how have you seen the investment rise? How has it changed your life? What is the single biggest benefit that you've seen from your Martech stacks? How has it changed you as a marketer or the programs that you take? And what are the challenges therein? So it's a bit open, but would love to hear your point of view. And please feel free to pick it up. You want to start?
So first of all, I would like to say that the concept of Martech itself is so new. A lot of people are actually not familiar within the system of what Martech is. So I think we need to have more of making this a non-jargonish kind of a thing and let the entire organization know. Because when you are actually talking about Martech and its implementation, while you can get the best of the best tools onboarded, the most critical part is actually how it is getting used and how the data is actually getting collected. And then if the data is getting collected cleanly in a manner in which will help you, that's when the Martech could actually be utilized. So I think as marketers, our role is become to be more of people who are actually spokesperson for how you go and adopt technology and make it easy for adoption within the organization, whether it is a supply chain who has their own systems, whether it is the operations at the stores, or whether it is your end delivery logistic partner who is actually handing over the product over to the customers. I think for us, the role as marketers has become how do you ensure that people are not afraid of this entire Martech. It's something that will help businesses become more efficient, help better communication, and also ensure that it will give you insights which may not be available like 5 or 10 years back. So I think it's very important for us marketers to educate the entire environment inside our organizations.
Well, that's a great point you make. Helping people get over the fear and then educating them on adoption. If I could ask you a follow-up, so based on everything that you've seen so far, is there one thing that you can do today that you could not do 5 years back without a Martech stack? What would that single big thing be for you?
I'll say that erstwhile you couldn't. So there was earlier there were acquisition teams and there was separate retentions team. And because of stacks not being available, you had two teams working in silos. Now, because of the stacks available and things talking to each other, systems talking to each other, you're actually saving on cost and you're ensuring of better customer experience. So that's the benefit of what Martech has actually brought to the system.
Got it. Breaking down silos. That's brilliant. It's a very organizational view. Nikhil, you want to pick this up?
Yeah, I think just picking up a cue, 10 years, right? So past is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why it's called the present, Master Shifu. I think we come from an era when the term Martech or marketing and technology, like yourself said, from engineering to advertising, and marketing and technology coming together in a short form word, which is cool, and we're having a panel today, is clearly talks about how we evolved. And I think technology is going to play a role, not just today, but in the future, and how it's evolving is where we need to put a focus on. I represent an organization which started as an SMS organization, built a fairly large ecosystem from SMSs, and today we are one of the world's leading global ad tech companies. Now, it has not come from the form of just elaborating our business on SMSs, and as the world evolved, as smartphones evolved, as screens evolved, your business also pivoted, and you had to find the right synergies to build products which are serving and catering to the needs of what this fellow panelists are talking about. We have moved from an era of a single screen where you are actually devoting a large part of your time. When SMSs came, we thought, wow, this is the best way to reach your consumers. But then you realized, oh, there is a smart screen, there is a notification. Now you realize there's not just one screen in your house, there are multiple screens that I can reach you with. And I think that is where it gave birth to technologies. I think every marketing, and as a marketer myself, I think every marketing insight comes from an insight from a consumer or from a need that is generated from the consumer or just the need of the current hour. And I think that's where Martech is heading. And I think if you look at the decade of evolution, most of us in this room are lucky to be in the era of when the iPhones were made and the first laptops were made and the first connected television. There's something called connected television now. It's called connected television. It's not called television anymore. So there's a clear distinction happening there, and which we'll talk about later. But clearly the world is evolving, and hopefully through this panel we'll touch upon some of those points.
Thanks for sharing that. Azmat, the same question to you, but with a nuance, because you come from a bank, and that's a highly regulated environment, so many things to think about. So how is Martech playing a role in banking, marketing for banks?
Thank you. So to address the first question in terms of how Martech has evolved and what it has done for our organizations, I mean, in the earlier days, there was no concept of Martech, and now nothing can be done without technology. We are all living in a technology advanced world. And what does Martech do for brands, for all brands in general? I mean, the most important thing is you get all your customer data in one place, which becomes a central data repository, which was never the case earlier. We had a lot of data silos, and every channel was a separate channel, not even talking to each other. This is the biggest advantage that I feel of Martech today is to get a customer single view. You have that in front of you, the integration of all channels, making the customer communication and the journey is extremely seamless, and thus aiding to the experience that the customer has with your brand. And of course, the level of personalization and sub-segmentation that you can do. You can talk to very, very specific cohorts and personas and do highly personalized communication. And all this is only because of the Martech technology that exists today. And in the future, we are talking about, it's no longer enough to just personalize, but we're talking about personalization at scale. So not only is personalization enough, but it has to be that a relevant communication to be served to you at the right time or at the moment of truth, at the moment of need. That's the kind of level that we are talking about. In terms of banking, I think banking is a very, very regulated industry, as you mentioned. And fortunately, there is a lot of security and a lot of processes around data sanctity and all, which helps BFSI, because the customer, while the customer is very happy to share data to get personalized communication, we have to be mindful about the data security and sanctity. And being a bank, that is much required. So being regulated really helps us, and the way we collect data from customers, as in consent-driven, be transparent in the sense what will be the use of the data, how long are you going to keep the data, and of course, data masking, regular audits, compliance checks, all of that goes a long way in building trust. And before I just pass on, just one thing I want to say with respect to trust and I mean, when it comes to a trust that a customer has with the brand, A, it's attached to personalization, B, it's attached to data security. So even thanks to Martech, when we talk about personalization, the customer A wants, there are three nuances to it. Know me, as in happy to share my data, please, and we need, as brands, need to know the customers. Show me. By serving relevant communications to customers, it's no longer one size fits all. I can't just do a mass communication. I need to talk to an NRI specifically for an FCNR deposit, and not only that, within the NRI, the segment that is actually looking for this product. And third, lastly, value me. I mean, how do we as brands value the customers? By serving them the right communication at the right time, which is highly personalized at the moment of need. That's the three nuances of personalization. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that and the nuance about how you need to think about it in a bank. Himanshu, you're someone who's been on both sides of the fence, and we had this corridor conversation where I realized you've been with a product company before and now you're looking at it as a marketer. So interested to hear your view on this from both vantage points.
Okay, yeah. So 10 years back, I was actually selling Martech to a lot of enterprises. And again, you just asked, 10 years back, was there something that we couldn't do, and is it something that we could do now? Now, if you break down Martech, right, into three core elements, one of the biggest element would be a customer 360-degree view. You have data coming into all kinds of engines. It can be a backend engine, which is a product which was created 10 years back. It could be a new engine like an Apps Flyer or Adobe Analytics or a Google Analytics, where you are tracking data and it's a very new age engine. How do you get data across all of these traditional and new sources and create that customer 360-degree view? That is one very, very important part of Martech, which again, to a lot of degree, has been solved by a lot of new age marketing stacks. The second aspect, what I would call is hyper personalization. So personalization 10 years back used to be many to one. I would have a customer cohort of maybe thousands of users, and I would probably send an email, SMS, or a push to that entire cohort. Now that has big time evolved. Now it's very one-to-one. You can have all those variables coming out of that customer 360-degree view, and you can personalize everything the way you want to. The third aspect is the real-time campaign orchestration. Real-time campaign orchestration across channels. Now you have the customer 360-degree view. You know what to probably send to the customer. How do you personalize it? Now the third aspect is how do you kind of send it to the user across multiple channels in a profitable manner so that there is no fatigue via your communication, and you orchestrate your campaigns in real time. Now 10 years back, I'll tell you a use case. There was no way for doing that now. And at Apollo, we do that use case almost day in and day out. Now imagine we run one of the biggest e-pharmacies in the country. Now imagine someone maybe ordering something, and again, all of us kind of travel a lot and all of us order on the go. Now imagine someone ordering in Delhi in winters something, and my customer 360-degree view telling me, okay, this person ordered something, is based out of Delhi. Should I send him or she an informative mailer or an offer around some winter essentials? Now imagine this person now moving to Bangalore. And that email, if this person opens in out of Bangalore, this email is absolutely not relevant, while all the data points suggested that this was the right email to be sent to him. Via our marketing stack, what we can do is, when this individual opens their email boxes, we capture the IP location, we send it back to our dynamic creative optimizer, understand, okay, which location is it coming from, change the creative on the go. So someone sitting out of maybe Delhi in winters would be seeing a different creative to someone sitting out of Bombay or Bangalore or Hyderabad. So these sort of interesting use cases is kind of very, very interesting to us. Imagine sending someone an offer, a Diwali offer code, and this individual opening that email 5 days after Diwali. That offer and that email is kind of waste to this individual now. But what you can do via these marketing stacks these days is you can change the offer on the go. So if there's a date counter, you check it out, and then you send a revised offer as per the latest trends or whatever is happening. So I think that, I believe, is a big, big play, wherein one, you can have all of the data in your system. You can create personalized offers or emails or products for this individual, and on real-time orchestrate basis the location, time, segment. So that's I think very interesting for us in terms of marketing stacks.
Thanks. Those are some very interesting use cases. And so far from the conversation, one common theme I'm gathering is the biggest impact has been breaking down data silos, which then allow you to create personalization, real-time experiences, and so on. Ashley, I'm sure you resonate with that, but I was wondering if there's anything over and above this theme that has emerged that you'd love to, share with us in terms of how Martech is helping.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not going to spend so much time in terms of history. I think that's pretty much covered. But from where you started, in terms of being tech, going to marketing, coming back to tech, for me it was slightly different. Marketing first, but then like 3 years back, we all realized that AI is going to be such a huge part in what we do, and therefore I upskilled myself. Spent 2 years in terms of actually learning AI, etc. and all. And the reason is the name itself, Martech, just is so simple, right? There's marketing and there's tech, and you need to really understand the tech so that you are able to then carve out use cases. You can understand what the tools do. I think the tools are all there, but the most important thing as marketeers, we need to understand what do I do with it? How do I make this useful to the company and also useful to the customer in the end? So there's personalization, etc. But personalization also can mean, personalization at different levels. For the industry that I'm in, stockbroking, I've spent most of my time in stockbroking, and I think the most important thing that people are looking for is getting something that is really relevant to them. And in the stock market, it's almost to the degree of one. We need to speak to each person individually because each need is so different. So how can you understand that user using his behavior and then give him something that he can use to make wise investment decisions? That's where we really want to take Martech to. We've achieved some great use cases, which we can probably discuss a bit later. But also, there are some new things which are coming up, and I think in terms of Martech, the ability to use that would be very interesting. For example, using AI now, we can really create images. So can I define the persona of a customer at the level of one? And therefore, when I'm communicating to him, really showcase something that is really fitting or, really attracts him. If not, while we say we segment at one, the communication in terms of imagery, etc., is not at one. You could do communication in text, etc., at the level of one, but what about visuals? So that's something very interesting, which I think that, is something that the Martech stacks can really go to.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think through the course of the day, I'm sure there's going to be no panel that's not been touched by AI. So we'll come back to that as a topic of discussion. But one interesting thing that you said was, in Martech, don't forget the tech in Martech, right? And most of us here in this room are marketers, not necessarily from programming backgrounds or data backgrounds. So how do you make these decisions? And I'd, love to hear from all of you is who decides? Do you partner with the head of IT in a company? Who signs off? Who says that this is the stack that we're going for? How is it organized? You can start.
Yeah, so at least in our organization, I think a lot of it revolves around identifying use cases, at the start. What is it that you want to do with these tools rather than going vice versa, taking a tool and figuring out what is to be done. So I think a lot of it, and because I represent both product and marketing, it is easier for me to understand use cases and the tech tools, but we also work very closely with the business teams in understanding what are the problems that we're really trying to solve. So once you get that, at least in our org, then we set along with technology and come to the next level, where because we are a very regulated space, we need to understand, is this tech tool really going to fit in? Is it going to tie in with all the regulations, etc., that are around? And that's how our journey then goes into the next level, and then the decisions are made.
So, Nikhil, actually, I wanted to ask you this from the other vantage point. Who's usually your client? Who signs off? Like, is it the CMO, CDO, CIO?
We'll have you in between, but usually in these conversations. But to answer, I think if you look at it, it goes back to fundamentals, right? the discussion we are having is Martech, and then there is marketing, and there are technology experts. And usually, the decision maker is a culmination of both. Usually, Martech is all about media optimization. So there is a decision maker which says, hey man, whatever Martech stack you do take, does it help in media optimizations? Does it help the company save 7% on the P&L? Does it bring back media strategies which helps me save money but target better, etc.? That is one part of the life when Martech comes in. The second part, and which is becoming more and more important as we talk about it, is the data part of it. Now when it comes to data, one is obviously the marketers saying, hey man, how important is this data? How often can I use it? How important is remarketing to my entire ecosystem? How important is personalization or new user acquisition? Which strategy is more important in terms of investment and thereby the next set of investments? And then from a company standpoint, and as in more companies are getting more evolved, more and more data regulations are coming into play, the chief information officer, the chief technology officer will come in and say, can or cannot do. We can or cannot have this data. You are a Europe-based company. You cannot have servers which are storing data for Indian customers. That's not going to happen. As an Indian company, we probably will not have those kind of stacks 5 years down the line. So companies will need to evolve. And I think, which is where, who is the decision maker? Obviously, the agency plays a very important role for larger organizations which are extremely inclined towards such decision making with their large partners, any of the top 5 agencies, including Publici as a group. So I think it's a culmination of multiple stakeholders. And since the word Martech involves marketing and technology, there is not a decision maker. I think there is a multiple decision makers, and it is led from marketing and media all the way to data personalization and tech, and in what priority the stacks stack up, right? Because if media is eventually where you want to be having optimizations, yes, the marketing guy is going to have a strong play on where his investments are going to be. If tech is where the company is investing in, like 5 years down the line, we want to have a CDP, we want to have our own data cleaning rooms, we want to make sure that we have these 20 million data points extremely cleaned out, we have multiple layers of understanding on that consumer, great. Then I'm sure the tech guy will have a little bit more relevance.
Got it. So it's a cross-functional team that eventually gets you there. Makes sense? I mean, it's a complicated game. We've been talking a lot about data, and I mean, as we all must have heard by now, the government is currently introducing a new bill. And Deepak, maybe I could come to you for this in terms of how are marketers preparing for this? I mean, how does this impact your decision-making for your Martech stack, and how would you look at things differently as a result of this?
I think now it's a very important stage that we are in. We have the Indian government who has passed a rule. We're still awaiting the codes of how it is going to get executed. A lot of Martech decisions right now are awaiting those codes because you don't want to make investments for the future without being adhering to the rules that have been set up by the government. There are heavy penalties that are there in case you are not found following those rules. So it is important for the marketer to also know that what are the rules of the game across the country in which you're operating. So if you're a multinational, you need to have adherence to, suppose you are working in USA, you have to follow the California rule, data protection rule. If you're working in Europe, you have to be cognizant on where the data is actually getting stored and it's not coming to India, and how is it getting managed. So all of those are very critical. I think regulations is something that we are looking up to. But I think there is one more thing that we all need to be cognizant is that Martech is just not about what is going out as communication or mediums of vehicle. For businesses, it's become more and more important as now we have apps and websites which play a critical role in the bottom funnel. So there are more and more newer products that are available which are not dependent upon these regulations right now. They will help you to ensure that the customers have a better experience, a more personalized experience when they open the app. So if you open the app, it will be customized to you. If I open the app, it will be customized to me because customers don't have time. And what as marketers, our role is to make sure that every time they are engaging with us, because of technology, we are providing the best utility at the shortest amount of time. I think that's one more area where marketers now need to focus more on, rather than just focusing on the acquisition channel or the retention channel. It is about, if you have a digital place of location, which is your app or website, please invest on things that will enable customers to make decision. And that is the core thing that customers nowadays like, that their life has been made easy, and that's the reason why they look up to the brand. I think that's one more place that we need to focus on.
Understood. No, that makes sense. A lot of preparation, a lot of thought that needs to go into this. You spoke about personalizing and reaching out to multiple cohorts and so on. So, Azmat, I mean, I think as a bank, you reach the nooks and corners of the country, right? I mean, or whichever market you're serving. So, do you think that a lot of the Martech stacks, especially the global stacks that are available in India, cater to that level of nuance, that level of geographical diversity that we have in India? What's your experience with those?
Yeah, so I mean, there are tons of different options in the market, and that's, some of them do cater to that, and that's why we are talking about personalization at scale. And like he also mentioned, somebody sitting in Delhi may see a different communication, someone sitting in Mumbai may see a different communication. Another nuance of highly personalized communication from the banking perspective, and I'll just maybe give an example of that, is financial behavioral based targeting, which also we do a lot as a bank. So fortunately, as a bank, we are sitting on a lot of customer data, not only the personal data, behavioral data, but also the financial data of a customer. And there is a lot of personalization that is done even based on financial data of a customer and his financial behavior and how he transacts, how he or she transacts. That's also done with a very, very high level of personalization. If you're a, high transactor doing repeated transactions and you miss one cycle, there is a nudge given to you. If you're digital savvy but you have not used your app for some time, then there is a nudge. So I'll just give you a very specific example of onboarding. For a bank, the relationship starts with an acquisition. It doesn't end with an acquisition, because everyone here will have multiple banking relationships. So the objective is to make ourselves a primary banker. And our relationship with the customer starts with let's say, an account opening. So the first 90 days are very critical for a bank to get into this hyper-personalization mode, to ensure that there are multiple transactions in these 90 days, at least 3 to 4 transactions across debit, credit, and all of that. Why? So that we ensure that a customer who typically lands up transacting in the first 90 days is one who stays with your brand for a longer time. There is a high level of stickiness. Also, someone who gets digitally onboarded in this period also lands up. So there are a lot of these insights basis which we have a completely automated and highly personalized communication system, where basis your individual transaction is when a next communication or a next nudge would reach you, with the eventual objective to make you transact within the first 90 days, a couple of them, make you digital, make sure you are digitally adopted the app and internet banking and so on, and a couple of more nudges. So for a bank, that's another flavor of highly, highly personalized communication.
Lovely. I think we are almost out of time, so I'm going to come to my last round of questions, which all of you can, jump in on. We spoke about AI. One of the challenges which, we see when we talk to, clients about Martech is oftentimes they're like, look, I bought this car with 100 features, but I actually only end up using 2. So I don't know why I paid so much. Now help me make the most of it, right? Now, this is something which so far has been a service-driven model where you buy a product and then try to find the right implementation partner. Is there scope for machine learning and generative AI to step in and help marketers make the most of their Martech platforms? How else will they impact them? I'd just like a word from all of you, maybe starting with you, Ashley, on the impact of AI on Martech stacks.
Yeah, so for us, we've done something which is outside the Martech stack, build the models, etc. And now we're leveraging the Martech stack to really deliver it. So I mean, we've done some interesting things in our domain. We are able to identify personas, behavior, app behaviors, news, how he consumes news, what stocks does he watch, etc. And then come up with a solution which basically talks at the level of one, where we are able to tell him that, this is what our model recommends. We're not really telling our model, but something that we know he's going to be interested in. We are able to do stuff like tell him, if I'm based in Mumbai, what are people in Mumbai buying? I can also look at what are people in Delhi buying, just to build curiosity, just to build the amount of time that people are spending on an app. What are people in my income bracket, my age bracket, gender, etc. And this is just to build the play element again. Coming to your question, we're doing this outside, but then we're using the Martech stack to really deliver it and get users engaged using that.
Himanshu?
Yeah, so I think Apollo as a brand, right, what we do is Apollo 24/7. We are like the demand and generation engine for the entire Apollo group and also the customer service engine. Now, I'll tell you why AI becomes extremely important for us. In usually almost every second morning, how we start our meetings is by calculating the number of lives we saved. It's extremely critical for us to, even if someone has ordered a paracetamol, we are in the business of reducing someone's pain, if not saving lives. Now, what AI helps us do is, it helps us, one, predict different trends across different business categories or probably service lines. It can be maybe what happened in Delhi, wherein there was too much pollution and there was a big need of pulmonologists, air purifiers, inhalers. And AI helps us understand it, and then across both business lines, be it offline, brick and mortar, or online, we are able to do our assortments using all of that data that comes in AI. Even if you look at Google, right from if you search cough to fever to maybe something as serious as cancer, Apollo is the only brand globally where you will see a widget for us which tells about these ailments. So all of that data is extracted and fed right into our systems, both for assortment, customer service, demand generation, and then making everything relevant for the right customers. Another issue that we face is, so there's no first-party retargeting in healthcare. A very real reason for that is a lot of us consume connected TVs. Imagine a parent checking out some sexual wellness products, and on a connected TV, we serving an ad to their children about them. So AdTech was not a solution for us when we wanted to service to a lot of folks who are entering customer journeys. Martech eventually had to become that choice because it's more consumer versus customer. So that's how we kind of evolved, wherein we focused more towards Martech than AdTech, figured out the right data sets, right cohorts, and then started actioning them. So, yeah,
so that's an entire topic by itself, AdTech, Martech, and how do you connect the two, but I mean, we leave it at that right now. Azmat, closing thoughts?
Yeah. So for BFSI and banking, one of the used cases for AI which has really worked for us is in predictive modeling. So we use AI-driven predictive modeling tools for three things. So if it's accounts customer, which is a liability customer, then propensity to avail. If I want to sell an FCNR deposit, even within the NRI community, this modeling, AI-driven modeling, helps me pick up the most potent cohort or segment, even within a broader segment. That's the top, that's a 30% of customer segment who will kind of land up buying 80% of my business, do 80% of my business. Makes our campaigns extremely effective and very, very targeted and relevant. The other is propensity to default. This is for loans, where you identify the likelihood of default using AI tools and both internal and external triggers to serve pre-approved loan offers to your customers, where you can really help them and they can get instant credit and all. And lastly, we also use it for a collection strategy, which is a very graded strategy. So a lot of AI-driven external triggers help us, if it's a customer who's an NPA, to identify how likely are we able to recover and what kind of a strategy we need to adopt. So it's worked very well for us for all these three predictive modeling.
Thanks, Azmat. So I think time's up, but Nikhil, do you guys want to just give this a punchline, a one-line
Yeah,
punchline?
I think, like I said, I'm going to pick up a line from him, Himanshu, and I thought we were into the business of relieving pain because we are building the Martech stacks, right? I mean, so relieving the pain of marketers, but I'll pick, again, I loved what Ashley said. I think AI and ML, is it solving problems? Obviously it is, as long as you know which problem you want it to solve, right? You are a function, you're an average of the 5 friends you keep. So if it's not the right questions you ask, you're never going to get the right answers. So it's all about what inputs you put in for the outputs that you get from any stack that you're going to adopt.
So I just want to say one thing. Don't Gen AI solving larger problems. I think sometimes as marketers use Gen AI to solve your normal days problem and how you can make your work more productive. You'll realize that a lot of your services or issues can also be solved by just you first adopting Gen AI to solve your normal day-to-day, daily marketing operations done. I think that's the role. Marketing operations is going to be really streamlined because of Gen AI. I think that's what I can say about it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your views. This was a great discussion. Thank you so much.